a sitcom about a funeral home.
A punto de llegar los afligidos. Va a tocar un grupo.
If you want to learn about Spain, you just have to watch a Spanish show, particularly if it's a sitcom, if it's a comedy show, which I feel like in every country they kind of show how people are through these comedy shows, because comedy shows, particularly sitcoms, are basically taking stereotypical characters and making them super exaggerated. You can just test it with any sitcom, but obviously there are some that are not as realistic, and I feel like in Spain we do things very realistic. I don't know why, but I feel like we do it a bit more than other countries, maybe question mark, I don't know. Particularly if we, why did I say particularly 3 times already? Especially if we look up like Hollywood type of things, they're usually way more spectacularized. That's a word which I'm not sure about. Here in Spain, everything is super realistic, particularly if it's a sitcom. Again, with particularly, goddammit. And we're going to talk about a show that I've recently watched twice. That's how much I liked it. I think it's so fucking good. But it's kind of annoying because I don't think you can watch it if you're not in Spain. And even if you are in Spain, I don't think it's translated to any other language. So you have to be in Spain, because I believe you can check this because I'm not sure, but I think it's on a platform that it's Spanish. It's not only just that it's a Spanish platform, but it's like a phone company. It's called Movistar, and I don't think you can create an account like you can on Netflix. You can watch the show, so it's like, it's kind of a shame, but that's why I'm here. I'm going to tell you the whole thing, the whole lore, not the whole show, but I'm going to explain like the characters and the plot lines a bit. I'm just gonna talk about it because it's such a good show and you really learn how people are in Spain, because I feel like it takes a character from each person that you can find here, if that makes sense. And the concept is already really funny and really bizarre, because it's literally called Muertos SL, which means Dead People Limited Society, like it's a company, and it's basically a funeral home, which is something that it really shocked me. And I'm going to be so honest, now they've released season 2 and I haven't watched the show. I hadn't watched the show before because last year, I don't know if my frontal lobe is developing or something, because I'm turning 25 this year, so that might be it. But I went through a rabbit hole where I was terrified of death. Like I had like legit fear every day, like panic, because I was thinking about this. I don't know what to tell you. I was like, I can't watch this show because it's about that exactly. And then my parents started watching it and I was like, I need to watch this. Like, this is, I know this is good. I know this is going to be really good. The show is about the main character, I would say, is Damaso. Again, like sitcoms, all the characters are really important. If I had to pinpoint a person, it's Damaso. He was the first to show up. And something that I realized in the second watch is that he introduced every character, which I didn't realize at first, just around explaining the company. So it's called the funeral home. It's called Funerarias Torregrosa, I think, which is a very difficult name if you don't speak Spanish. Funeraria means funeral home and Torregrosa is like the name of the company. So he explains the place and then he goes to each character and explain what they do. He does that in the second episode, but he goes around just talking to people and he's always the first to say their names, which I don't know if that was intentional, but like I picked that up and I thought that was really cool, that the main character will be the one to introduce to us to every character. I don't know, maybe that wasn't intentional, I'm just hallucinating, but I thought that was cool. So he's pretty funny. He's one of the most famous actors in Spain, I would say. Like, I feel like everyone knows him. He's just this type of guy that's been working in a company for so long, but he can get to be the manager of it and he wants to be the director. So the show starts when they actually, not only the manager of the, I don't know what's the word, if this director, the executive, I don't know, whoever runs the company, it's also the owner. So he dies. That's how the show starts. And so Damaso wants to be him so bad, not dead, but like the manager of the company. So he just throughout the show he tries everything he can think of to be in that position, because like he deserves it, because he's been in the same company for like 25 years, so it's like he should be the manager. But when the Gonzalo, he's the last manager, when he died, his wife, I guess widow now, she decides to keep the company running because her daughters want the company to be a gym so they can profit out of it. So Nieves is the one that now is managing the company. Only thing is, she's never done this before, she doesn't know what she's doing, so Damaso tries everything he can. Says her, you just sit here and read some magazines, I will take care of everything, just so he could potentially get to that position. He's just expecting her to get tired of the job, I guess, and he couldn't take it. So then we have, okay, on the same note with Damaso, he's always with Pablo Morales. He calls him Morales, that's his last name, but his name is Pablo. So he's an intern and he's just so adorable because he's just a people pleaser, particularly Damaso, because he's like his boss in a way, and so he's just all the time like going with him and just asking him about everything and wanting his approval, and he doesn't get it because Damaso is kind of like, what's the word, very pessimistic, and at the same time he's like narcissistic, but I think it's because he just doesn't really like himself. He's like a bit of a failure because he's been trying to run the company for so long and now he had the chance and still couldn't. So it's like, I think Damaso just has this conflict that he has never achieved anything. He actually talks about it, how he wants to start his own business, but he just doesn't, and I don't know if it's because he doesn't have the money for it or whatever. So it's like, I think Damaso is always like pessimistic and he doesn't care about Morales at all. He just cares about himself. So Morales is just like, he's so cute. I feel like he's just cute, but it's like you feel bad for him because you're like, he's not going to give you the attention. I should talk about Olivia. I think Olivia is also so funny. She's very hypochondriac, I can say that word, and she's really scared of death. So it's like, it's so funny that she's working there. She's the receptionist, and I think she does other stuff, things about accounting, and I think other stuff. I think she just does a bit of everything low-key, and so it's so funny that she's working there where she's super terrified of death and everything related to death. She's very romantic. She's the kind of person that's more in love with the idea of love than with the person they're with. When the show starts, I think, I don't remember if it was episode 1 or maybe 2, her boyfriend just calls her and breaks up with her, and she's like so upset about it, and then this guy that was from high school comes around and she just wants to immediately date him. She just says all the time like, I want a boyfriend. She doesn't care who it is, she just wants a boyfriend. And I kind of love this narrative because another character is Abel. Let's just say that he will be on My Hear Me Out cake, alright, which is a bit concerning, I will say, and I understand, and I know that I need therapy because he's literally the weirdo of the show. That's just his thing, that he's weird. And low-key, I'm going to tell you something. I do think he's on the spectrum, but they don't say it. And this is something that many shows do, particularly like, again, with particularly, we're back to particularly with comedy shows and sitcoms. Like, I remember in the Big Bang Theory, I don't know if they were the producers, the creators of the show, I don't know, but someone just claimed, like completely denied that Sheldon is on the spectrum. Like, they've said this before a lot of times, and it's like, he is, like, you can clearly tell that he is on the spectrum, and they just keep denying it. And I do think it's because it's not offensive this way, because if you say he's on the spectrum and then you call him weird, it is offensive. But if you just say he's a weird person and then just don't mention at all that he might be neurodivergent, it's like, he's just weird. With Abel, they do the exact same thing, but it's like, clearly he's on the spectrum because he not only has zero social skills, but also one of the things that he's hyper fixated on is he's the what's the word? Thanatopractor. thanatopractor, I'm going to say. He deals with the dead bodies, if you know what I mean, that job. I don't know what it's called, but that's the job. And he likes it to a point where it's not that he likes his job is his hobby. So it's like, oh, and he's also like really hyperfixated in everything that history, facts, and even numbers. He also really mentions like numbers in general. I don't know, I feel like he's just on the spectrum. Like he's also kind of weird besides the spectrum part, because like that the fact that your hyperfixation is the thanatopraxia or whatever it's called. And I think he also mentioned, what is it called when animals are desiccated? He has weird hobbies besides the fact that he has zero social skills, and he's super in love with Olivia. I love this plotline, and I hope that if they make a season 3, they only have 2 seasons, if they make a season 3, I need them to be together, and I don't think that's going to happen. I just need it. I ship them so badly. I love them separately and I love them together, and I wish they were together. I don't think they're going to be together, but a girl can hope. Manuela works with him. She's like the makeup artist of the dead bodies, but I think she does more. She helps Abel with his job. I'm not really sure how that works in general. Like, I don't know how funeral homes work, but like her conflict is so interesting. I thought it was risky because she just sued Gonzalo before he died because of sexual harassment, which is a really heavy topic for a sitcom, because again, it's like everything is parody, like, you know what I mean? It's not only a comedy show, everything feels like very sitcom, like everything is kind of like a sketch. And so I thought it was really interesting that they decided for her to be this plotline, and I do think they do it very well because Gonzalo touched her butt. So for a long time they could kind of make jokes about it because it wasn't super heavy. There was this narrative that she should still sue him, not only that he's now deceased, but that it wasn't a big deal. Like many people think, oh, it's just he just touched her butt, but it is a big deal, you know what I mean? And I think they do highlight that. And also she just goes on a full investigation about it, and she finds out that he has harassed and sexually assaulted many women before her, and some of them were really heavy. And I think it gets to a point where they all get together and each tell their story, and I think that's so powerful that in the middle of the fully comedy show you just put something so important in the middle, but it's like it makes sense, you know what I mean? Like to me it didn't feel forced, or it didn't feel like it didn't belong there, because they managed to put like a full scene when each of them told their stories, and it was really serious. But then at the end it's like someone wanted to interrupt them, so they made a joke in that moment. So it's like they still managed to make jokes around the topic, but it's like not really about the topic but around it, you know what I mean? So I think it's such an important thing to talk about, and they talk about it in a very clever way because they could still make jokes without taking the importance that it has. I think Manuela's conflicts are like super heavy because in season 2 she thinks, or everyone starts thinking, that she's kind of like, she just has bad vibes because her boyfriend died of an accident a few years ago, and then she's trying to date again for the first time since the accident, and then the guy also dies. Like it's so heavy all of a sudden, all her conflicts and all her plot lines is like, what is happening right now? I also love the actress. Like some of the actors I already loved, so it's like easy to like their characters. Speaking of which, I have to mention Nino is also super funny. I know I'm saying that all of them are funny, but like I do think Nino might be the funniest character. The actor Salva Reina, I will say he's from my hometown. Weird flex, but I have to say it. And also he won an award, not from this show but from a different show, like very recently he won an award. So it's like he's big, you know, he's a great actor, and he's just Chef Kiss. He's already so funny as a person. It's easy to have his character be funny because the character itself is really funny, and also is played by an actor that's basically a comedian. So it's like everything about Nino is really funny. He's just the uncle, uncle. You know what I mean? You have that uncle that's kind of conservative, like that kind of guy that's sexist and doesn't even know it. It's just like he's surprised by the feminism. There's a scene with Manuela where she tells him, oh, Gonzalo sent a dick pic to this girl, and she's like, well, that's not a crime. And she was like, yes it is. And he was just so shocked that that's a crime, like everything that's kind of modern but that is just common sense, everything, he doesn't understand that. But also he's a complete mess. He's the driver, by the way. He drunk drives and he has 2 ex-wives, and like his life entirely is a complete mess. He's like kicked out of his apartment because he doesn't pay for it, like he doesn't manage to make ends meet, so he ends up living in this other apartment. Like he's a mess. He's just a mess, a complete mess, and he's so funny, and he's also, hear me out, okay? Then there's like little characters, if that makes sense. For instance, there's Chemi. Chemi is that, what's the word? Wait, let me look for it. In Spanish is yerno. Oh, son-in-law. Chemi is Nieves' son-in-law, and because Nieves' daughters want her to fail, kind of like they want to take the business down low-key, they send him. His wife doesn't believe in him, and she just thinks that he's going to ruin the company, which he low-key does, so she was right. So they kind of convince him to be the marketing person in the company. Everything is a mess from there. Then there's also Laya. Laya is the waitress in the cafeteria, and she's really young. She's actually studying the same degree that I have, which is like media communication or media studies, I guess it's called. And she's just working there to get inspiration from it. She doesn't have that much conflict. I think her conflict ends up being that Manuela finds out that she got a dick pic from Gonzalo, so she kind of helps with that. She's kind of like a side character that help the other ones. Same thing with Anselmo. Anselmo is the cremator, I think it's called, like the technician of the cremation oven. I don't know these terms, but he's really old and he just wants to retire, and he has to take 10,000 steps every day because his wife told him to. And then there's just against the sisters, like the Nieves daughters, which are Pilar and Milagros, and they talk to, what's her name? Oh, Vanessa. Vanessa works from the competence, like a company that's also a funeral home, and so she was an intern from Amazon from a while ago, and now like they hate each other and they're complete enemies. And so she's trying to get Pilar and Milagros, they talk and they plot together because the other company wants to buy this one. The 3 of them are just trying to bring this funeral home down. So yeah, I think that's all the characters. I'm hoping I don't forgetting anyone. Like there's a guy that's I said this before with Olivia, like the guy from her high school. He's there every once in a while. Antonio, I think is his name, and he's just like the ones who deliver the flowers and things like that. I think that's basically it. Like each episode has like its own characters. They're all very secondary. Like if they come from a funeral, they had one that the guy wanted a funeral for his girlfriend who is not dead, but he just wants to forget about her. And there's other where they have to like paint him as a clown because he works as a clown. There's one that's also really heavy, and again with the same thing that I said about Manuela's conflict. This guy comes because he wants to off himself. I don't think I can say this on YouTube, and they like make jokes about it again in like I don't think it's offensive. It might be a bit offensive, but I would say in general Spanish comedy can be a little bit more offensive than others. I think it's what Americans say about the British comedy. I feel like it's just Europeans in general, but our comedy can be a little bit darker, I would say, that maybe in other places. And I do think that this is a really heavy topic, but I don't think they treat it as a joke. They just make jokes around them, making it bit important. You know what I mean? And like they're trying to save the guy.
¿Le dijisteis que Jesucristo le amaba?
Le entró por un oído y le salió por el otro.
But they completely fail, like accidentally. So it's like, I don't know, I think it's interesting how they take such heavy topics and still manage to make jokes about it. But I don't think they're bad taste jokes. They're just a little bit dark. I don't know, I think it's such a funny show. And also something that they say at the beginning, which I never thought about, is that during the pandemic, everyone was talking about like the doctors and all these people that worked so hard to make our lives easier. They still deserve the credit because yes, they were great, but no one thought about these funeral agents that had to go get the dead bodies of people. And it's like, I've never thought about this. Like, this is something that I said with Abel, like, oh, he likes his job, is kind of weird.
Es raro. Tú también.
But at the same time, it's like someone has to do it. You know what I mean? So it's like puts a light on something that we never think about. And they said it like no one wants to think about us, but it's like it's a real thing and it's a job that people has to do and someone has to do it. And also everyone has to go through that at some point because we die or someone around us dies. So it's like, I don't know, it's like really lighthearted, but at the same time they are touching on topics that are really, really heavy and important, but making it easier. Like what I said at the beginning, I think for me going into the show thinking, oh my god, I'm so afraid of death, I think it made it easier for me because now I can laugh about it. You know what I mean? So I just think it's such a good show. If you can watch it, please do, because there's so many things that I haven't told you. And please do subscribe because it's free and you can change your mind anytime. Have a nice week.